So we're here in NRG Arena, which we've made our election headquarters here in Harris County. All of our operations, from our mail ballot processing, we're even going to have a voting center right here over my shoulder. All of our operations in Harris County are headquartered right here in NRG Arena. And we're able to have these operations in a way that's safe and socially distanced.
What is the biggest challenge that you guys are facing security-wise, and why?
Our biggest challenge is that we have to make sure that we count every vote and give all of our voters confidence that we're counting their vote and that their voices are going to be heard. We're hearing so much disinformation across our country about things like the post office and the dangers of voting and potential mail fraud. And most of this is false, and we have to give voters confidence that we are going to be able to accommodate them, that we're going to give them access to the polls in whichever way they choose to vote, and that their votes are going to be counted.
You mentioned a little bit something about Harris County. You mind repeating that again, please?
Absolutely. Harris County is the largest county in Texas and the third largest county in the United States, with over 4.7 million residents and more than 2.4 million voters.
What, apart from this information, you have other issues like the foreign nations or foreign domestic enemies trying to hack or allegedly trying to hack or try to do mayhem towards the election. Call it disinformation, call it trying to hack your system, stuff like that. You know, how you guys are protected to face unprecedented challenges, not even the ones that you saw in 2016, but new and even more difficult ones during the pandemic.
We have to remain vigilant about security in this election. And that's why our entire election system is closed. No machine that you vote on will be connected to the internet. It's an entirely closed system. And we physically transport the results from every location to our central counting here at NRG Arena to be counted. For your mail-in ballots, those come in and they're locked in lock boxes, which are stored in a locked cage, which is under 24-hour camera surveillance. And every ballot is handled by a bipartisan committee of Democrats and Republicans who ensure that that is a valid ballot, that it's you who voted your ballot, and that the results of your ballot are counted.
In Latin American countries, the idea, it's incredible because the suffrage percentage in Latin American countries, at least in Mexico, is way higher than here in the United States. And yet, in Mexico, sometimes the legitimacy of the elections, not so much these days, but in the past were like, tremendous. Hence, you have to have a voter ID, you need to vote in person, there's no such thing as mailing. So this thing about mailing your vote in many countries is something like, wow, I mean, how do you, so the obvious question for them is, how do you know that if I'm the one who's voting, like from my house, that it's not somebody else who's using an HP printer, or what say you, how do you know that that particular vote from person A living in somewhere in Galveston, or within Harris County, somewhere in Houston, that arrives here on the mail, is a person that is a U.S. citizen, the actual person, and that the vote is legit?
So there are numerous layers of security in the mail voting process. First of all, of course, you have to be a registered voter, and so we'll have your signature on file. When you apply to vote by mail, we compare that signature to the signature we have on file, and when you ultimately vote your mail ballot, we do that signature comparison again. In addition to that, the mail ballot that's sent out is unique to you, with a barcode that's unique to you, and that cannot be copied. If we get two of the same one, we'll know that, and we'll be able to flag that in our system. And again, when your mail ballot comes in, it is physically locked up in multiple layers of boxes and caging and vaults to ensure that no one can compromise those ballots once they're here, and that ballot eventually gets processed and processed only once. Numerous studies have been done on mail voting and the potential for fraud, and it's more likely that you'll be struck by lightning than that you'll experience mail ballot fraud here in the United States. There are numerous states, red states and blue states, that conduct all of their voting by mail. And so this is not a partisan thing. This is not some left-wing versus right-wing situation. This is the normal state of affairs in the United States. Every single state has a mail ballot option, and there are a number of states that vote only by mail. And so here in Harris County, we're ensuring that we're going to keep your mail ballots secure, and we're going to count your votes.
Wow, man! So many the reasonable party or area should hire you to say that quote right there, because that's more likely to be struck by lightning than that's a huge statement right there. So
And I'm not exaggerating. This is an actual fact based on scientific study.
So where do you think this whole disinformation campaign comes from? Like just to make things, to question the system that, I mean, I lived here since I was, before you were born, in '84. And I never heard of issues with, the same things like illegal immigrants who vote, you see the stories. I mean, you see the news, you see the quotes, you're telling me as the maximum official, the highest ranking official, voting official in the third largest county in the nation, that it ain't happening in Harris County.
Yeah. Well, I take pride in being a Texan and an American, but we know that voter suppression has taken place from the dawn of this country. It took many years for women to gain the right to vote. It took many years for people of color, people who didn't own property, to gain the right to vote. And there have been years of battles to try and limit those rights once they were granted to us in the Constitution. And that battle has not stopped. And this disinformation is the next wave of voter suppression here in this country. We want to keep people from knowing their rights, keep people from knowing that they can vote. And so, it's our job here at the Harris County Clerk's Office to educate voters, to empower voters, to make sure that voters know their rights, and make sure that we're giving them access to the polls to vote in any way in a simple and straightforward manner, to have their voices heard and their votes counted in our democracy.
The night of November 3rd, according to people far smarter than I am, they say there's going to be a mirage of a red advantage. But given, let's take the polls aside, because you're an elected official, I don't want to put you to the spot. How fast will the mail-in votes be counted? Will they be counted on November 3rd? Or when do you expect that Harris will be able to have the results from both the physical votes and the ones that are mailed?
It's a great question. Voting by mail is part of our early voting process. And so from the middle of October, we're going to start processing those mail ballots. That means accepting them, verifying the signatures, and making sure that they're ready to be scanned and counted. The counting itself won't take place until Election Day. But it's a tradition, across Texas and here in Harris County to report those results early on election night. And we plan to do the same thing here. That having been said, all election results that are ever broadcast on election night are unofficial results. It takes about a week to go through those results, to fully canvass them, and certify the election. And that process will remain unchanged. And so you'll see the large majority of our results being announced and reported on election night. It is going to be a late night, but you'll get those results on election night. And then we'll work over the following week to certify the election.
And obviously, because we're being so used to the process being so legit and so flawless, usually the predictions tend to be true. That's why we have certainly to call, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And we don't realize that the actual certification of those results happened until a week later.
Right.
So,
and that's always been the case, and it's because we just want to make sure that we count every single vote and that we report accurate results. But we do, again, we plan to release those results on election night. And so folks here in Harris County and hopefully across Texas will be comfortable in the results coming out of Texas and Harris County on election night.
Okay, let's shift the conversation now. And I'm sorry that technically I'm 3 minutes less than actually been because we started a Spanish experiment, okay? So, I mean, I'm not taking that long. So, I don't like long interviews. People, they don't sometimes seems like they're writing like a book or something. I like to take it.
We're all right.
You know, respect people's time. You know.
Of course.
New things that we're going to see here because of the pandemic, a drive-through. Tell me about the ways that people are going to be able to vote here in the NRG Center, and why are we in the NRG Arena and not in like the regular places we usually are?
Right. We want to ensure the right to vote and ensure that voters can cast their votes safely and conveniently. And that's why we're giving voters more ways to vote, more places to vote, more days to vote, and more hours to vote. And so here at NRG Arena, this is going to be one of 120 voting centers across Harris County during the early voting period. That's triple the number of voting centers that we had in 2016. Also at NRG Arena, right outside in the parking lot, we're going to have drive-through voting. This will be one of 10 locations across Harris County where any registered voter can come and cast your ballot from the safety of your vehicle. And not only is it safe, but it's convenient because while you're waiting in line, you can listen to the radio or talk to friends or family on the phone. In addition to that, we're going to have more days of early voting than ever before, 18 days of early voting. And that came as a result of my request to Texas's governor to extend the early voting period to allow more voters to cast their ballots safely. Hours. In the last week of early voting, from October 27th to October 29th, every location across Harris County will be open until 10 p.m. at night to give every single voter the opportunity to cast their ballot conveniently. But on the night of October 29th, that's a Thursday, NRG Arena, along with 6 other locations across Harris County, won't close. They'll be open for 24 hours. And that's to make sure that every single voter, our shift workers, our first responders, those folks in the Texas Medical Center who are working to save lives during the time of this deadly virus, the folks who are stocking our shelves at our much-needed grocery stores, the workers at the Port of Houston, can cast their vote, if only for one night, at a time that's convenient for them and their work and family schedules.
Muy bien. Cuando el votante llega a la urna, va a presentar su credencial y lo vamos a registrar en el sistema. Cuando sea registrado, vamos a usar la máquina que llamamos el JBC, ¿verdad? Donde el juez electoral va a entrar y va a oprimir para sacarle un código al votante. Y le va a entregar su código de acceso de 4 dígitos que luego va a llevar a una de las casillas para votar.
Q, my friend. Pick up your piece of paper. Same process, but without speaking. Go ahead, like if you're actually voting, please.
La cucaracha.
Muy bien.